So for an economic assessment of immigration, what matters apart from the scale, that is the number of immigrants in the country, is the economic behavior, so the choices they make. And these are directly shaped by immigration policies and, for instance, by whether migrants are granted a perspective to stay longer term at a destination. So generally, immigrants who consider themselves permanent residents are more similar in their behavior to the non-migrant population. For instance, they send less money abroad. They also have lower savings rates. Lower savings rates here again means being more similar to non-migrants, because even in some European countries that have relatively high savings rates, temporary migrants save a yet larger fraction of their incomes typically. And these choices, of course, matter, for instance, for the demand for goods and services in destination countries. Another important difference is that permanent migrants have a strong incentive to invest in host country specific skills and to integrate. So in one research project on Turkish migrants in Germany, where we observe the time immigrants expect to stay in the country, we find that those who think they will stay permanently have steeper earnings profiles than immigrants who expect to return. So just to give a number, this difference in earnings paths leads to a gap in earnings within the first 10 years after arrival of about 10%. So this is quite substantial and matters, for instance, also for the taxes that immigrants pay. Still, this idea that migration policies and the perspective for migrants to stay permanently, that these affect economically important choices by migrants, this idea is not very present in debates about desirable visa schemes and desirable immigration policies. So I think we need to move away a bit from a too narrow focus on just regulating immigrant numbers, which is partly done by restricting the length of stay immigrants can have a destination and by enforcing return migration. Rather, the focus ought to be more on the incentives that different immigration policies have for economic choices. So what matters as well is that migrants, and in particular also refugees who are likely to stay for a longer time in a country, have clarity about this early on, because uncertainty about the potential to stay somewhere clearly reduces the incentive to integrate, to learn the host country language, etc. And this will affect longer term outcomes and hence also the economic costs or benefits immigration has to destination country, for instance, by the fiscal contribution of migrants.